Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. We'll get started here in just a few minutes. We're letting everyone kind of simmer into the room here. We got a lot of people piling in, so we'll give everyone just a moment. Literally watching that number grow. In the meantime, while we wait for all of the attendees to pop in here, go ahead and find that chat box and let us know where you're joining us from. No chat so far.
I'll get it started.
There he is. There's Neil in Edmonton. Got Mark in Colorado. Got Joel in St. Petersburg. All right.
Okay, so hold on. We've got some questions in there. Anthony saying he's getting no sound. Oh, now he's got sound. All good.
All right.
We got David from Huronia Arms in Central Ontario. We got some folks, Brian from Boston, Ben from Atlanta, Joseph from Millersville, Frank from, I'm going to try it, Wappingers Falls, Ryan from Rhode Island, Kevin saying we look good.
Well, Neil, I can't see those questions, so I'm going to trust that you're being accurate here.
All right, but everybody looks like they have sound. Oh, here we go. We've got Michael from Germany and Peter from Pete Suica from Lake Arrowhead, Ronald from Yarmouth, Anderson, South Carolina, Portland, Prince Frederick, Kenzie, Tennessee, another person from Edmonton. Welcome. It's not too cold here yet. New Jersey, New Milford, Vintage Security and DC metro area. Kevin from Utah. Brendan, California, Ryan in Rhode Island. All right, well, we promised we would keep this thing to a short 30 minutes. We're gonna try and live up to that commitment. We're gonna look for probably 10 or 15, maybe 20 minutes of actual presentation, and then we'll have the floor open for any questions that you may have, and we'll be obviously happy to answer any of those questions. And if you have other subjects you want to talk about, feel free. And then hopefully you've seen the agenda that was posted on our social media and our Facebook pages, and that's been blasted out everywhere. So we have this session will be every Thursday at this time with obviously different subjects. So Joel, off to you, my friend.
Sure. And thanks for everyone for coming on. As Neil said, this is the first of a series of webinars that we're going to be doing, short webinars. Today being on the IQ PowerG Hardwire Module. Every week they're going to be different. And if you guys have a topic that maybe you want us to cover in the future on one of these, feel free to reach out to us directly or to your local TAM. So that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into this. So this IQ PowerG Hardwire module is something we're very excited about. It's one of our newer modules, and there's a lot of potential in this for future growth. So what we want to do is kind of give you guys a rundown of what this module is, what it does, its capabilities, where we're going with it in the future, and then Neil's going to actually give you a live demo of how we're going to enroll this into our IQ2 Plus. So Neil, if you would change next slide, please. So the IQ PowerG hardwire module, and if you look at this, the part number, by the way, is there in the top, the parentheses, the PG9 WLSHW8. I mean, it's a lot easier to say the IQ Hardwire PowerG. So, but if you need the part number, there it is. This is essentially a module that's going to give you a smooth transition path from those legacy hardwire systems that you would traditionally do in an old school hybrid system over to our PowerG wireless. So you're going to get all of the benefits of a hardwire system, but easily transmitted back to an IQ2 Plus. Inside of the plastic enclosure is the actual PCB. You're going to have eight hardwire zones built into every unit. You're going to be able to add 2 of these units per panel, so you can get a total of 16 zones. You're going to have PGM support, which, if you're not familiar with what PGMs are, it's a legacy term we used back in the DSC days for programmable outputs. So these are are programmable for different types of applications. You can have them follow different events like system alarms or opens and closes to specific zones and so on and so forth. And we'll actually give you an example of some of these things as we go through with the live programming, because there's a lot to it, and there's even more to it with the IQ2 that we can do that we couldn't do even back on the DSE days. And if you pair up the two of these, you're going to have a total of 8 PGM, so a lot of capabilities there. We have life safety support built into this as well, so you not only can you do your 4-wire smoke detectors and CO detectors that may be existing already on the install, but we also have that 2-wire smoke loop on PGM2 that's carried over from the DSC stuff. So if you're familiar with the legacy Neo or PowerSeries hybrid PowerSeries hybrid panels, where we had that 2-wire smoke loop on the PGM, we brought that over on this module. So you're going to be able to take over those existing and utilize the existing wiring, right? Onboard bell output, so hardwire bell sirens. So again, utilizing hardwire sirens. Dual tampers, so if someone rips it off the wall, someone pops the cover, you're going to know about it. We have all the UL listings, the 1610, the S304 for you Canadians. And to give you an idea of what we're doing in the future here, we also have a core bus connection, which is, traditionally for zone expanders and power supplies and things like that. But what we're doing with this one in a month, well, hopefully a month is where we're targeting right now, is the ability is we're going to want to give you guys the ability to add hardwire Neo keypads to this. So you're going to have those capabilities here very shortly, as well as to expand on the 8 zones on board by adding 8 hardwire zones, 8 additional hardwire zones with the Neo zone expanders. So all of that coming with firmware updates here very shortly. Neil, if you change slides, please. So again, this being a hardwire to PowerG module, you're going to be able to go into any existing installation that has all of these different hardwire devices, whether it be photo beams, sirens, indoor, outdoor sirens, carbon monoxide detectors, your 2-wire or 4-wire smoke loops, gas detectors, motion detectors, whatever they may be, and you're going to be able to attach them to this module and convert them over to PowerG wireless. Now, why is that beneficial? Is that's going to give you guys a ton of extra cost back into the job. You're not going to have to add those wireless devices to the system if they already exist. You can just buy this one module here and wire all of those guys in and enroll them like you would a wireless sensor. So again, essentially you're turning a hybrid system into a true wireless system. Neil, if you would please, next slide. So this slide, we want to give you guys a quick example of some additional things we can do with our PowerG converter utilizing PGM outputs. So maybe you have a customer who has a traditional system where they're utilizing an output to trigger a gate or something to open up. Well, we can actually tie this into our system now to where that using the PowerG to hardwire module, to where you can use the key fob to say disarm the system, and that disarm or a PGM can follow the disarm state to trigger an output to even open a gate for you, or whatever other type of application. Maybe it's a siren or a strobe or an LED or whatever function you need. Neil, you're muted, buddy. Is that the phrase of 2020? You're on mute.
I'll apologize in advance whenever we're demoing this stuff live. It may or may not work. So I'm going to enroll my module first. So easy enough, settings, advanced settings, into your installer or dealer code. You're going to hit installation, devices, security sensors, and then you're going to go auto learn sensor. So I'm going to hit auto learn. I'm going to, again, hopefully this works. You never know with a live demo.
Neil, what are you doing right there?
So I just held the enroll button for just about 2-3 seconds until it turned, we'll call it yellowish or orange. So right away we are getting the auto learn PowerG sensor on there. I'm going to hit OK.
Hey Neil, can I show them that process really quick, if you don't mind? So yep. On the module, there's an enroll button, and you would hold that enroll button down until the LED lights up, and then release it when it lights up solid. It takes 3 seconds, and that will then allow it to be paired with the pan.
Yep. So the panel will automatically recognize it as a hardwired translator. It's the first one being learned into the system, so it will give you a sensor name. Obviously, you can change it to whatever you wanted to call it. So we're just going to hit add new. So what you'll notice is it'll start adding the sensor. And then it's actually going to populate all of the zones automatically, right? So the one thing you'll notice is it's starting. I'm going to switch to my mouse here. So input 1 is starting at zone 6. And the reason being, I have other devices already enrolled in the system, but we have the intelligence in the module to say input 1 being the first set of inputs on the IQ Hardwire PowerG, and it's going to be populated in zone 6. It's going to put everything in as an entry exit, but it's all learned in already. So I'm going to go out of there. You'll now notice this new box shows up. Right? So PowerG output rules, and that's where we're going to show you how to activate or create PGM rules. One thing we want to, that we've got a lot of feedback on is people wondering how to activate the fire loop. I just need to look at my number, 5646. To activate the PGM2 for a fire loop, super simple. You're just, instead of auto learn, you're going to hit add sensor. You're going to type in the PowerG serial number of your device, like that. And right away, you'll see sensor name smoke, PGM2. So it's a now enabled PGM2 to be a dedicated 2-wire smoke loop. I'm going to pause there. You got anything, Joel, you want to add at this point?
No, I was just curious if any of the guys had any questions coming up that are pertinent to what we're doing right at the moment.
Mark?
No, sir. Some of the questions that are coming in we're handling in the background, but not exactly what you're covering at this moment. So we'll just keep answering, and you guys keep rolling. Thanks.
All right, perfect.
Hey, Neil, I have a quick question. Can this support polarity reversing?
Okay, so currently, officially, no, we do not support polarity reversal. It is something that, again, we've heard the feedback from the field. There's a strong demand for it. So ironically, we did have a meeting earlier this week, a bunch of us with our engineering group, and we are working on, we'll say certifying the module to be able to do polarity reversal.
So in the meantime, if you need one sound, all sound, we just stick with the PowerG wireless smokes for now.
Exactly. Okay, so we're going to go in and start creating a PowerG output rule. So I'm going to click that new box again. It's now showing up because we have learned in an IQ Hardwire PowerG. It's very, very smart, obviously. PGM 1, 2, 3, 4. PGM 2 is now locked because I did enable the 2-wire smoke detector loop. So we're going to create a PGM on, we'll call it PGM 1. Okay, so it's showing that there's no current rules associated to PGM 1, so I'm going to hit add. And we're going to call this test 1. Nice and simple. Okay, so the first thing it's going to ask you, my keyboard, is your output type. So do you want it to be normal or inverted? Joel, you want to explain the difference between normal and inverted?
Activated versus deactivated.
There you go. So we're going to go with normal. And then you have your next option is your action. So you have a latching or a timer. Right? So latching, obviously, your PGM will latch in that state, or you can use the timer functionality. And I think you're going to be pretty impressed what we've been able to pull off from a timer standpoint. You can actually get up to 300 minutes on a timer. So trip your PGM. 5 hours. You could have a trip for 5 hours if you wanted to. We'll leave it as 5 for now. Okay, and then your trigger type, right? So that was your options for trigger type being system or zone. So if we look at system triggers, pretty straightforward. The standard disarm, arming stay. You'll notice that we've also had functionality for exit delays and entry delays or alarms. So those are your system triggers. So in this case, if we wanted to trip PGM1 for 5 minutes on disarm, you all set up. And now the output rule is been created for PGM1. One of the great things that our engineering software. Go ahead, Joel.
I was going to ask, is that the only rule we can do for that PGM?
Oh, no. Our engineering software team has literally taken, as far as we can tell, we have no limit to the number of things we can program on a PGM. You're only limited by what you're able to do. So if we actually wanted to go in and go edit that rule, so I could edit the current rule, or I could add another one to PGM1. So in this case, let's say PGM was a piezo. All right, we're going to say it's now test 2. It's also going to be normal, still going to be latching, but now I want it to do it if a zone opens, right? So I could just pick this motion detector, we'll say zone, we'll use something from the wire to wireless. So zone 1 on the IQ Hardwire PowerG, so input 1, zone 6, and now you can have, open or closed, right? So now that exact same piezo that we have triggering on a system disarm, you can now have that exact same PGM tripping again, based on whatever is on input 1, zone 6. And I'm going to say, only when it closes, right? And then again, right? So it's still, the rule is called test 2. You could, knowing that it's, you could call it piezo, you could call it whatever you want. But you can literally, we have run out of ideas as far as trying to make it, to get to that theoretical limit, right? So, on my production unit on the other side of me, I have roughly, about, I want to say it's about 12 or 13 different rules running the same piezo. Definitely annoys my wife every time, I do something, because, I'm getting an entry delay, an exit delay at the same point. You kind of get both, and then I'm getting it when I'm arming and disarming, and I
was going to say, I'm sure it's the panel that's annoying your wife, right?
Thanks, Joel. Yeah, 100%. It's the panel annoying.
The possibilities really are pretty endless as to what you guys are going to be able to do and cover and creatively cover any type of application you may need for this system to send an output status of some way, shape, or form. So.
Yep. So again, you could have, every time a motion activates. So again, all on the same. So all running off PGM1. There are now, there's 3, right? We have a timer on 5 minutes, a latching on normal, and we have an inverted on a 5-second timer.
Hey Neil, I got one for you. If you enroll this module, do you have to use all 8 zones?
No, that's a great question. So there's a couple options you have available. You can edit the sensor and just make it not used. So we can go in there and your input mode, so one thing I guess we should have showed, this does support single end of line, double end of line, normally open, normally closed loops. So you could actually just click disable, and then that zone will disappear from your zone list. As far as being active, the other option you do have is you actually can delete a zone entirely. So if it's never going to be used, let's take off input 2, zone 7. So I'm going to delete it, and now it's not even going to show up in our zone list. So now you'll see 6 is disabled, and 7 is now totally gone. We have had dealers do this by accident. So if you ever do need to re-enable it, it's as simple as activating the PGM2 for the smoke loop. You're going to hit add sensor. Again, you're going to enter the PowerG ID of your module, and now you'll notice your dropdown shows 2 because it's been deleted, right? So PGM2 has already been activated. So it's showing that hardwire input 2 is now available, so to speak. We can add that back in the system. And now you'll see that it is back, or should be back in the system. There we go. Back in the system.
And just so we're clear too, the end of line resistance is variable, correct? That's a programmable end of line resistance.
Correct. Auto detecting, not even programmable. Yep. So it does auto detect from 1 to 10 k ohms.
There you go. So basically able to take over any existing hardwire system that has EOL that already there.
Yeah. So there currently is a limit of 2 of these modules, per IQ2 Plus. This module will be supported on any of our next generation panels as well. We will be able to offer the same support. And as Joel said, we're going to add the zone expander support. later into Q1, Q2. But keypads right now are on track for mid-February, and I got to say they're working amazing. We've been testing these. I've got them in my on my other panel, and they work absolutely fantastic. Right? So for those takeover scenarios, where the customer may want a hardwired keypad, they already have a wire run. It's as simple as putting in an HS2 icon or an HS2 LCD keypad, and you're up and running. So I think that's really as far as we have from a content standpoint. So hopefully we have some questions. Mark, good Mark.
I sure hope so. I would imagine, right? So.
Or we're going to be tap dancing for the next 8 minutes.
Hey, no worries, guys. I do have one for you to start. Let me go back and find this. Can you have different timers on one PGM triggering off of different rules?
Can you have different timers on the same PGM? Yes.
Triggering off of different rules. So basically, as you were talking about having multiple rules applied to a single PGM, each one of those rules could have a different timer associated with it?
Yep. So even in this one example, right, we have a timer of 5 minutes and a timer of 5 seconds.
That's a great question.
It's a great question.
Yeah, well, it came from one of our legacy TST guys who knows PGMs.
Would that come from Dan?
So another question here. Let me see. I've answered a few of these. So they asked about posting some diagrams. I've let guys know that they can email me directly. This question came from Mr. Yip. When wiring the existing hardwire to the PowerG board, do we need to use the existing resistor? So
as long as your existing resistor is between 1 and 10K ohm, you're laughing. It'll auto learn it, and you don't have to rewire it.
All right, thank you guys. Let's see. Neo touchscreen support for the future, or just those LCDs?
Not today.
It's great. It's a great question. I can say not today. I have opened a conversation with our product management team, to see what would be required from a lifting standpoint to get it in. So tentatively, I'm just going to say tentatively, we are looking when we release 1.3, the firmware version 1.3. So right now, this one would be 1.0. Keypads will be 1.1. And zone expanders and power supplies is going to be on 1.2. And this question about having the Neo touchscreens added is tentatively on 1.3.
Okay, so the kind of another question related to that, are all Neo keypads compatible? So we're kind of answering that the touchscreens are not. We're just specific. So it would really only be Neo LCD keypad, not icon and not touchscreen, correct?
Actually, it will support HS2.
ICNs.
It'll support HS2 icon, HS2 CD, and it will support the P versions. So any of the keypads with the proximity sensors. Now the proximity is not enabled, but those keypads are supported. So you could use HS2 icon and icon P and LCD and LCD P.
Non-RF versions, by the way. These need to be non-RF version keypads.
Yeah. You can't have two hosts.
Is there going to be a replay of this seminar available? Did we record this by any chance?
This is being recorded, and our wonderful team in our marketing group is going to actually create. We'll call it the TAM Technical Webinar channel. We're going to have our own YouTube channel, and these videos are going to be posted there, along with whatever other videos and webinars we do. And yeah, so you'll be able to access it.
So somebody said, what if you have more than 16 zones? Now, you could talk about the 16F that works on one of the panels, where this works on all 3 variants. But that is the future. As Joel, I think you mentioned, we will eventually have a zone expander available for each module. So this 16 will double to 32.
Yep.
Correct. And we are continually pushing our software engineering and product teams, for the functionality to be able to add more than 2 of the IQ Hardwire PowerG modules. But right now, that is the current limit.
How many keypads again for that takeover module for each one?
So officially, we're waiting for the final answer from our engineering team. I am comfortable with the performance of 2 keypads per module, so 4 keypads total. On paper, it is supported for up to 4 on each module. There is some, once you add the 4th keypad, you do get a slight lag or slight delay, so to speak. But so you may have one keypad stop its entry delay, and then the other one stop it 2 seconds later. So you may have that additional beep. But functionality-wise, you could support 4 on each.
Okay, this is a great question. It just came up from Fire Control. Why would we install this versus a 16F when doing a takeover?
That's a great question. And there's nothing wrong with the 16F. The 16F is a wonderful, takeover module. Some of the, again, the benefits of the IQ Hardwire PowerG, first off, is PowerG. So, from a range standpoint, you're getting, all the range and encryption that PowerG offers, along with the 4 programmable outputs and hardwired keypad support. But again, you can't go wrong with either device.
Let's see, from Rich down in New Mexico, when will we have a force arm option similar to DSC panel line and also cross zoning? That seems more of a question around the IQ Panel 2 Plus versus this particular module.
Well, happy to answer it. So, both of those items are on our wish list for firmware 2.7. No timeline yet, and we can't guarantee they're going to be in, but they are on our wish list, and we actually have a prioritization call this afternoon to determine what's going to be in, what's going to be out from 2.7.
What firmware is required on the IQ Panel 2 Plus?
Okay, so to use just the IQ Hardwire PowerG module, you need 2.5.3. Will enable the module itself. Once we release the keypad support, it'll be 2.6. Firmware will be required to support the keypads, because basically what we're doing in 2.6 is, you probably noticed, or if you've played with one of the modules, you'll notice there's a core bus on it. So 2.6 will actually enable that core bus, and then 2.7 would be any further core bus enhancements.
Here's a great question that came in that I'll actually handle. Will this support an integration module similar to an IT100? An IT100 is a serial device that we used on our legacy PC series. Most integration will be over IP going forward. The IT100 will not be supported on the wired wireless or any Neo and Pro panel due to the fact that we have now moved into 128-bit encryption versus just data capture, which is what that IT100 module was. So, Justin, I know that's kind of a long explanation to say the answer no, but that unfortunately that's legacy integration.
But can I add to this, Neil? If you would click on installation really quick, since we're talking third-party integration really fast. Click on devices. Wi-Fi.
Oh, I'm not in as a dealer.
Oh, he doesn't. Okay, yeah. So we have options for third-party integration under the Wi-Fi settings. To whoever just asked that. So if you go in there, you'll see an icon that says third-party. Oh, you weren't under dealer.
Yep, I am now.
Go back one.
I went too far.
Yep. There we go. Third-party connection. So if there's going to be a third-party integration, it's going to be listed under that bucket there. It's all done via software.
It's all software driven.
We're getting right here at the stop time. Do we have any other questions that we should answer here, Mark or Mark?
Let's see.
Mark squared.
I'm looking. What about a keypad 160? I'm thinking somebody was asking about a PC series. Oh, something about a keypad added, but the prox is not active. So they're just saying that customers love to use prox tags for arming and disarming. So wondering about that support for the future.
I mean, we definitely, we'll definitely go back to the engineering team to see what would be required to activate the proximity function. Again, the keypads themselves are supported, just not the prox tag.
Does a true and an inverted option work on the same PGM? And if so, how would that be? Or would we be in circular logic at that?
I'm pretty sure you'd be in circular logic at that point.
So they're basically
On
what
and
you're
off
saying,
at the
Neil,
same
is you
time.
could create some PGM because this allows more than one piece of PGM logic to be applied to a PGM. And that's breaking with tradition from our historical legacy DSC control panels. And so, yes, you as the dealer could run into a situation where you're asking the PGM to do two opposite things. When this occurs, I want it to activate. When this occurs, I want it to deactivate. We could potentially create that circular logic. So just be careful, and thanks for that question, because that kind of should motivate everybody to, pay attention. If you do one-to-one rules, you're fine. You start getting into Neil's, I've got 10 different things activating one PGM. You might see it drive your wife crazy if you put it on the bench.
I just wanted to see if I could get to a limit, and I just ran out of ideas at that point.
Could you pull up that PGM test? Looks like we've got a request to pull up that PGM test rules and see what's going on. There was another question here that I was hoping you could show how to edit a zone even after it lands on this as well, this translator. So,
okay, so what did you want to see in here?
Well, basically he's saying, should it be something that gets blocked if you create one of these test PGM outputs and then you try to add another one that counters what you're doing? Yeah, should it have like a grayed out area or be blocked somehow?
I'm pretty sure. There you go. So if you have something that already exists or conflicts, you'll get this.
Okay.
System state rule already exists for that PGM with the trigger of disarm.
Okay. Now let's see, for commercial applications, they have integration requirements often, and typically they would use a legacy panel like a DSC and integrate it with CanTech. So will the Aquasis in the future use that third-party integration option, maybe a database link or sync to CanTech or Entrapass rules based on alarm events? Can we see that happening, Joel, as you were talking about those third-party integrations in the future?
So not to be vendor specific, but the third-party integrations are growing. So there's not going to be a ton of limitation with that as we evolve with this, not only this platform, but some of our newer ones that are coming down the road here. So third-party integrations are going to grow exponentially in the coming years.
And when IQ Gen 4, Gen 4 is released later this year, there will be a lot. There'll be some sandbox automation apps as well. So, if there are questions or certain vendors that you're looking for us to integrate with, reach out to your local TAM or your local sales manager, and they'll get the information off to us.
And I know, guys, we're about 5 minutes over. I'm glad that everybody stayed with us, and we do have some other questions that maybe we will just answer offline, but I think we'd like to keep this reasonable, and we've got 14 more of these coming up in the next 14 weeks. So
add them to your calendar, guys.
Add to your calendar. Lots of good material, lots of excellent things that we'll be covering, and with the Q&A session in the background as well, gives you an opportunity to do some deeper dives or at least find out who you can reach out to in the
And next week,
and I want to. Go ahead.
Just say next week's session for everybody here is best practices for using the IQ remote.
Yep, and yeah, again, as I said at the beginning, guys, these are meant to be short and quick bursts of just information. So if you want more specified information, you want to go over something in more detail, reach out to your local TAM and schedule a training. We're all very accessible, and eager to meet with you guys and do more in all training that you guys need. So with that.
So that's it. So Carmen, I'm sorry we saw the hand go up, but I'm not sure if we answered your question in the Q&A. So we'll leave this open for a bit if you want to get that question in, or if anybody wants to add any questions before we pull the plug, then we'll be able to answer those offline in the near future.
If you, and if I can stick around for another 10 minutes, if people have some questions, Mark, Joel, if you guys want to stick around too.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll stick around. Yep, we'll go ahead and end the video. We'll just answer in the chat.
Absolutely. Thanks, Joel. So someone did ask about, let's see, support for Savant. They know that Control 4 works, but not Savant yet. I know that's something that's probably being worked on in the background, isn't it? We are currently working with Savant to add that, right?
Right.
I'll chime in here on the Savant question. So we are waiting on Savant. They're updating their OS, and once they get that rolled out, we'll likely be able to have some sort of beta. It sounds like it's probably not going to happen until later this year. Q2, Q3 timeframe is what I would guess.
We've had a lot of questions, gentlemen, about system sensor and Cosmod because of the lack of polarity reversal on all of our modules today, so the 16F and this new wired to wireless. So the Cosmod, has a little bit more benefit to the market because it's its own independent module. We just need to get it enough power. And so the limitation today would be not as many detectors as the dealers may want. So we need more power, which means we have to add a core bus power supply in order to properly support the Cosmod. We've got dealers, obviously, that like to break the rules all the time. Not saying that they haven't made it work, just like a whole bunch of other applications that are out there that are probably not UL. But we're talking life safety and fire, so we need to be a little bit more cautious and proceed that way. We just had an engineering call this week, Neil, and so it's pretty exciting actually to think about that being a future for this module. So it's just going to keep getting better. Today we have that initial release, 8 zones on each module, 2 modules. When we add zone expanders, you'll go up to 32 zones. When we add core bus support, you'll get keypads, maybe power supplies. So let's just keep going. So Carmen, you were just pushing buttons. Thanks for clarifying. Great. Is Qualsys rated for commercial Berg? Yes, Bob, it is. It has UL 1610, 4 partitions, keypad lockout, 6-digit user codes. So that's a big yes.
And for the Canadians, ULC S304, level 2.
Let's see.
Just for anybody who wanted a step-by-step, I've just dropped the instructional manual into the handout section, so you should be able to grab it right from there.
Let's see if anything else has come in. Thanks everybody for staying on the call. We still have a vast majority that have stayed with us for the last 11 minutes. And I think a lot of times those that have been on these calls in the past do understand that there are a lot of questions that come in, and you learn from other dealers that might be asking the question that you forgot to ask. So, hey, it's great that everybody's staying on. We don't want to take too much more of your morning or afternoon or evening, wherever you are, but thanks again. And as these questions keep rolling in, hopefully we're getting this taken care of for you. And if we missed a question, if we didn't answer it either within the chat or the Q&A box, excuse me, we'll try to get back to you after this session as well. So we'll review this, we'll review the recording, and we'll send that out. So gentlemen, looks like people are just saying thanks, appreciate it. The two of you look good.
Thank you.
Yeah, so.
I appreciate it. We'll see you next Thursday.
We'll see you next week.